Hey y'all, welcome to Monner's Market and welcome to Dark Academia Valentine. What in the world does that even mean? Well, dark academia is a popular academic aesthetic that revolves around classic literature, the pursuit of self-discovery, and a general passion for knowledge and learning. It's one of several different ideas of the academic aesthetic, each having a unique subject focus. Dark academia's visual stems primarily from the upper class European cultures of the 19th century. So that's basically what it means, and I'm going to see if I can capture that for you in this video. So let's jump right into that. For my very first DIY, I made this adorable candlestick. Well, I didn't really make it. I just gave it like a facelift, if you will. So for DIY number one, I found this candlestick at the Goodwill. It was on sale for $1.99, and I got it for half off. So I paid $1 for this candlestick. Now, it is old and ugly, and it needed some love. So what I did is just cleaned it up really good, and I went in with Ivory Chalk Paint by Waverly. Now, you're probably thinking, Ivory, isn't this supposed to be dark? Yes, it is, and it will be in just a few minutes. My base coat is ivory, and once I finish the ivory base coat, you will see me go in with a few different colors. I'm going to use Waverly's chalk paint in the color Elephant. I am going to use Apple Barrel chalk paint in the color Jet Black, and then I'm going to use some of Waverly's Antique Wax. And I'm just going to continue to layer and layer until I get the desired look. Now, it is a dark academic vibe, but it doesn't mean it has to be like completely dark, like all blacks and grays. So that's why I'm using the ivory, just to give it a little bit of class, if you will. I love the way this candlestick turned out. It wasn't too bad in the beginning, but it was very 1980s with the golds and the blacks and the just kind of in your face gold and just old. So I just gave it a little facelift, and that's literally all I had to do. I also took a candle holder from the Dollar Tree and simply placed it on top of the candle. And if you can see that little knob right there, there's 3 of them, and this plate fit perfectly in those 3 little knobs. There was no room for it to move either way. It sat down in there. It popped right on, almost if it was made for that. So I would love to know what you think about this little uplift, or whatever you want to call it, down in the comments below. Now, for DIY number 2, I did this picture. I got this picture from the Dollar Tree, and I love this little design. I think it is absolutely adorable. I actually bought a couple of these, and I've already crafted both of them. So right now I'm just removing all of my hardware, taking everything off so I can have a clean slate to start with. And the paper was already sort of peeling off of the front. So what I did is I took my blow dry, or my heat gun, and I thought, you know, if we can take off these stickers so easy with a little bit of heat, maybe we can take off this paper with a little bit of heat. Well, that didn't really work. However, it did loosen it up enough to where I took it to the sink, dampened it just a little bit, let it sit, and the paper came right off. Now, I'm using these little embellishments here that you can get in the sticker section and putting them on each side. And then I'm just going to play around with some of these half beads to try to see where I want them placed, how many I want there, and I just couldn't decide. So I took this burlap banner. Now, you get several of these in a pack, but I only needed one for this particular project. So I cut it down until I got it the size that I needed it to be for my little picture. And you'll see how I put a picture on that in just a minute. But I ended up going with 5 beads. Then I took the ivory and all of the other same colors that I've used in the first DIY. You will see me using those colors throughout the video. And I gave the picture a really good coat of the ivory to cover it all up. And then I went in, like I said, with the Jet Black, the Elephant, and the Antique Wax, and just kind of kept painting all over it and layering it until I got the color that I wanted. And you'll see me kind of go back and forth between darkening it up, lightening it up, and just, oh gosh, it was just a mess. But anyway, I like the way that it ended up turning out in the end. Now, what I was doing with the elephant was putting it on top of the ivory while it was still wet, because it just blends together a little bit better like that. And I did the same thing with the antique wax and the black. Just kept kind of layering it until I got it the way I wanted it. After I got it painted and it ended up looking, kind of dark-ish, I moved on to my picture. And that's where I fell in love with this whole idea and theme of the dark academia. Now, I called my video The Birds because you will see a bird theme throughout the video. Let's see, I did it on 1, 2, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and try to count them, but birds were sort of the theme, not only with what I created, but also kind of, in the vignette. Now this, look at that. It's called Bonjour. That's the name of the transfer. This is the black ink from Waverly. And the two of them together on top of that burlap turned out absolutely gorgeous. Now, I have never chalked on top of burlap before, so I had no idea if it was going to work or not. So I went in kind of heavy with the top of the transfer. And then when I got to the bottom, I thought, if I keep going heavy, it's probably going to just smear and run everywhere. And it didn't, but I'm glad I lightened up because I liked the effect that it gave it. And look at this. Oh, I love it. I never get tired of the reveal. Look how pretty that turned out on that burlap. So I got it ready to put on my picture. And before I did that, I went back in and added my hardware. And you'll see I had it upside down. So I had to tear that little half bead off. And when I did, I messed up my paint job. But it was an easy fix. So I went back over it with a little bit of light, replaced my little half bead, replaced my hardware, and glued my picture down. Then I had to flip it over and add the back of the picture hanger back up. And it was really easy to do. You could still see the tiny little holes that it came out of. It was super easy to pop back in. I did add a little dab of hot glue when I was putting my hardware back on, just in case those little nail holes were stripped, which they didn't seem to be, but it was just a little bit of added security for it, honestly. But that was it. That was all there was to putting it back together. But once I did get it put back together, it still looked a little too dark for my liking. So I did go back in with the ivory and just touched it up a little bit and added a little bit more light to it, because you really couldn't see the details in those pieces right there that you see me lightening up. And I just thought it was prettier when I lightened it, and it just stood out a little bit more. But that was all there was to that, and I love the way that this whole entire picture turned out. And that's, like I said, when I fell in love with this whole theme. So let me know down in the comments what you think about the picture, how it turned out, and how you like the whole theme in general. I want to know your thoughts on this whole dark theme. Now, don't write before you watch the video, because you'll probably be doing what I did and judging it too soon. But after looking at some videos that other people have done and researching the whole idea behind it and doing my own little video now, it's not something that I would do all the time, but it's definitely something that I had a great time doing. And look at how pretty the paint job and the details and the burlap and the chalk ink. And I just love this little picture. And I hope I did Annie justice whenever she invited me to be a part of this playlist. But she's the Dark Academia queen. I mean, oh my goodness, wait till you see her video. You're going to love it. Now let's get into my third DIY, which is a little cheat, honestly. You saw these jars in my last video, and I hated them. Like, I hated the way they turned out. They were so stinking ugly. They did go with my rolling pin and made my rolling pin match, but I just was not feeling this whole red and pink. I did not like it. And I knew I wanted to throw them away, but then I thought, you know what? Let me see what would happen if I just added some of this elephant paint on top. And I'm telling you, it gave it a brand spanking new look. And it made it very classy, in my opinion. Now, had I stopped at just the elephant, it would have looked sort of high-end and fancy. You know what I mean? But you also know me, and you know I've got to distress everything I get my stinking hands on. So after I painted it with the elephant, I did go back in and distressed it down with some of the ivory chalk paint. Now, that's just what I like. That's my style. That's what I like. If you don't like the distressing, leave it off. You do you, and do what works for your theme and your house and your aesthetics. But this is what I like, and I love the way these jars looked the second go round. Now I'm just kind of painting the tops and covering up some of that pink and red, and I thought I was done, and those turned out super cute this time. Now, I really do like them this time. I didn't like them at all the first time, but I do kind of like them this time. But the flowers were not working with this theme. So I'm going to show you what they look like with the solar wood flowers still on there. But then I'm going to show you what I did. And I did it off camera, so I'm just going to tell you what I did. I found some really pretty red roses at the Dollar Tree a while back. And I just popped those little wood flowers off and added a couple of those red flowers. And that is exactly what these jars needed to match this theme. Look at that. Look how pretty those are now with the red roses. Now I'm loving them. Now I'm like, yep, I'm vibing with those because it's matching the whole aesthetic. And it's going to match my little book that I do next. This is my DIY number 4, and I love this book. Now, there's going to be a giveaway in this playlist. In order to win the giveaway or be part of the giveaway, you have to answer a question. And my question is, do you like this whole dark aesthetic? Do you like the whole dark academia? But more specifically, my question is, would you make something to put in your home that has this theme? So that's what I want you to answer to be put in the drawing for the grand prize or the prize in this playlist. So these are just 2 books that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I gave them a coat of the jet black paint. Say that 3 times fast. And it goes on easy. I wasn't sure with that being a really slick cover if it would take the paint, but it took it very well, and it only took 1 good coat. Now, when I was doing the back of the one that has the lighter back, I let my paint get a little bit too dry. So it ended up taking a second coat on that. But still, all in all, it took the paint very well. So once I let them sit and dry, then I was ready to stack them up and get to decorating them. Now, I knew I wanted to use another piece of burlap, but I did not chalk on it this time. I actually found some stamps at the Dollar Tree, and they were birds, and they were perfect for this theme. So you'll see me in just a few minutes stamp with the birds. But before I did that, this right here, these little party hats right here, honey, let me tell you right now, I jumped on the struggle bus with this, and they locked the door and did not let me out. I fought with that daggum thing for close to an hour. Now, it's sped up here, and it's only going to be a couple minutes for you, but you could not cut the wire in that thing with nothing I tried. I tried bending it. I tried cutting it with several different things, And I was so daggum aggravated by the time I got through, I didn't even care if I used it. Well, guess what I ended up doing? I tore it right off the daggum book. I got so mad and so aggravated at it, and it didn't turn out like I wanted it to. I just ended up ripping it off. But when I ripped it off, it left this sort of, let me see what's a good word, like a texture behind. And that actually added to the way it looked when it was done. And I loved it. And I'm so glad that it ended up messing up. And you'll see in a minute. I need to just hush because the more I try to explain it, the stupider I sound. But there's those birds. Now, I don't have an ink pad. But so what I did is I just took a little bit of paint, put it on a plate as you see, dipped them down in that plate, and just stamped them on top of the book. And it worked like a charm. It just worked as good as it would have if it would have been ink. So I put a couple birds on it, and then they had a little leaf pattern, and I just put the leaf a few times on there. And I didn't want overkill, so that's the way I left it. And then I added one of these little stickers to the bottom of it. And that's when I went to try to work it on the side. I thought if I painted over it a little bit, it would help, but all that did was messed it up. So that's when I decided to just rip it off. And oh my gosh, still stuck on the struggle bus. They wouldn't let me out. I was aggravated, started crying, wanted to call my mama. Now I'm just being stupid, being silly. But anyway, I peeled it off and went from there. I took the paint and covered up my mess that I made. And then I started wrapping some twine around my books and got an idea to put some buttons along that edge. That's when I liked it. When I put those buttons on there, that's when the whole thing changed for me. They finally opened the door and let me off the struggle bus, and I was tickled to death with the way it turned out. Those buttons were perfect. It almost gave it like a steampunkish kind of vibe, which I love, 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 love. So then I just wrapped the twine around it several times and tied it in just a simple little bow, and added one of the same little red flowers like you can get from the Dollar Tree that I use on top of those little jars, and put one on top of my book, and I was done. I was so glad to be done with this daggum book. I have never been more glad to be done with anything than I was fighting with that daggum little party hat thing. But look at how pretty this turned out in the end. I absolutely love it. And I cannot wait to hear what you think about this down below. Oh, that's right. I did add a little button to the middle of that because it had this little plastic piece in there that was just ugly and it showed up too bad. But look at how pretty that turned out. Now, this is probably my favorite piece in the whole video. I think I said the picture was, but this is definitely my favorite piece. And this is definitely dark academia. This is the whole vibe that we're going for today. So let me know down in the comments below what you think about my book. And what do you think about the way I stamped and chalked on top of the burlap? Have you ever tried to do that before? I know I hadn't. But I sure love the way it turned out, and I'll definitely be doing it again. So now let me show you my final reveal of the whole entire thing. Look at how pretty this all come together. Look at birds everywhere. I just love this whole vignette. And I do believe that the whole vignette captured the whole idea of the Dark Academia Valentine. This would be perfect for a tablescape by your dinner, with your steak dinner, with your Valentine. And I'm not a drinker, but maybe a bottle of wine if you drink. Just some candles glowing, sitting there with your honey, enjoying another Valentine's together. Me and my husband are celebrating our 30th Valentine's together this year. No, that's not true. We're celebrating our 29th because our Met date was March 3rd. So yeah, this will be our 29th year for Valentine's together. But look at how pretty those jars look. I just love this whole setup. Can you imagine having your little dinner sitting there, looking at all of these beautiful, dark, romantic pieces of beautifulness? I love it. I really didn't think I would, but I absolutely love it. I just want to thank Annie for coming up with this idea and allowing me to be a part of it. I hope I did her good and, proud, and she likes what I did. I hope you guys like it. And don't forget to answer my question to be entered into the prize. Be sure to go watch the playlist. But thank you for coming to Monner's Market. Thank you for watching. Be blessed. Bye now.